Good morning, everybody. We're in Mark chapter 12, and previously we saw the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders, and then we saw the Pharisees and the Herodians, and in this morning's reading, it's the Sadducees' turn. It seems like every religious and political sect of the Jews are taking their turn at attacking Jesus. There's a few things we're going to need to know about the Sadducees. Number one, they had primarily taken over the sacrificial portion of the law, so they would have been like your high priest and your priests. They also didn't believe in a resurrection. We'll see that in our text. But in Acts 23, it says they didn't believe in angels or spirits either. So let's pick up in our reading. We're in Mark 12, verse 18. It says, "Then some Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him, and they asked him, saying, 'Teacher, Moses wrote us that if a man's brother dies and leaves his wife behind and leaves no children, his brother should take his wife and raise up offspring for his brother. Therefore there were 7 brothers. The first took a wife, dying, he left no offspring. And the second took her, and he died, nor did he leave any offspring. And the third likewise. So the 7 had her, and left no offspring. Last of all, the woman dies also. Therefore, in the resurrection, when they rise, whose wife will she be? For all 7 had her as a wife.'" And so they leave Jesus with this ingenious scenario that is really meant to pull at the heartstrings and kind of make the doctrine of the resurrection seem absolutely ridiculous. And so here's the scenario. You've got this poor woman who's married to this man who has 7 brothers, but they themselves have no offspring. And so he dies. And then as Deuteronomy 25:5 says, his brother takes her on as his wife. But they have no offspring until she's married to all 7 men, and then she herself dies. And so this very hypothetical situation. But the question is this: if they rise, then whose wife will she be? Because they all consider her wife. You know, that's an ingenious scenario. It shows that surely the doctrine of the resurrection is just ridiculous. You know, there's your answer right there. Jesus answered and said to them, "Are you not therefore mistaken, because you do not know the scriptures, nor the power of God? For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. But concerning the dead that they rise, have you not read in the book of Moses in the burning bush passage, how God spoke to him, saying, 'I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob'? He is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living. You are therefore greatly mistaken." He says that they are mistaken, that they didn't know the scriptures, which is something they thought they knew the most about, and that they didn't understand the power of God. You know, those are some really powerful statements towards these high priests and these priests, these very religious men, these religious leaders. And if you think about it, if they knew the very basics of the resurrection, their question wouldn't even make sense. That number one, they would be raised from the dead. Number two, they wouldn't marry because there's no marriage in heaven. Number three, instead, they were going to be like these spiritual beings. They were going to be like angels, which they didn't believe in. So Jesus is trying to teach them something about angels. That would have answered their question right there. But remember, Jesus told them that they didn't understand the scriptures. So he takes them back to the scriptures, takes them back to the passage of the burning bush, where God told Moses that he is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He didn't say, "I was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." He says, "I am the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob." And by the time God had said this to Moses at the burning bush, these men would have been dead and long gone. And if the Sadducees were correct, these men didn't exist anymore. But they did exist. God's not the God of things that don't exist. He's the God of the living. So these men did exist, but they existed in a spiritual form, which is something they didn't believe in. They were just awaiting their resurrection, a day in which their spirit or their body would be resurrected from the grave, and they'd be given a resurrection body. Just a few days from the time they asked this question, Jesus would die on Friday. He'd be resurrected on Sunday. And you know, the amazing message of Jesus' resurrection is not just God saying, "Hey, look what I can do." It's, "Hey, look what I can do for you." That one day we too will be raised from the dead and we'll be given a resurrection body and we'll be with the Lord forever. What an encouraging passage. But it's only for those who belong to the Lord.